Chan, put us side to side if you would, just like last time. So we're gonna flip roles. Last Omar's a little better at staying on script than I am, so we're gonna let him be in charge of this one. Hey, reason being, this last part is so important.
Yeah.
So important to not just you keeping a policy on the books. Because is you keeping the policy on the books important? Yeah. Like you should see persistency differences. There's some folks that they got God love them, but they got chargebacks every week. God love them, but they get four, five, $6,000 a month in chargebacks. And then you got other folks that didn't have a single chargeback last month. And I'm just going, all those policies that charge back have one thing in common: the person that wrote them. All those policies that didn't charge back have one thing in common: the person that wrote them. Does that make sense? So that's why I want to make sure we stay on point. So Omar's going to keep us on point, and then I'm going to offer a color commentary. He's going to be play by play, and I'm going to be color commentary this time.
I like it. I like it. And I appreciate it. Thank you, Stephen. Yeah, yeah. This is my favorite part of the sales phases, right? The presentation phase, because people overvalue it. If that makes sense. So it's my favorite part because it for new people specifically, you overvalue this part of the conversation. So everything we're going to talk about today, this and the post sale, because like Stephen was saying, like that's how you keep your clients on the books. Everything we're about to talk about is going back to the processes that we previously talked about. So it's all on the shoulders of having executed everything properly up until this point. Right. So I love this part of the conversation because to me, this is where you really check your work.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And can I just interject real quick? I know it's gonna have
Yeah.
a hard time with this. I'm trying my best, Omar. Hey, first of all, y'all got questions, pop them in the chat on
Yeah.
YouTube, and then channel pop them over to us and get them answered. But I just want to double down on what Omar said. Go back and listen to the other phases, because
Mhm.
if you don't do those right, this won't work out right. You'll be, why is
Right.
it not working out?
Right.
Um, this is 26 years of me selling and going to seminars and trainings, and journaling. You should see all the journals I have. So everything builds on everything for a reason. So go back and listen. If you're doing in-home appointments, listen to them while you're out there running. If you're doing virtual sales, listen to them first thing in the morning before you get
Yeah.
cranking. Listen to them while you eat your lunch. But I'm just telling you, if you don't do those right, this won't work, and you'll be like, I knew it didn't work.
I promise it does. If everything else, all things equal. It's kind of like I assume everybody on this call, I know most of you guys are around my age or a little older, a little younger. But do y'all remember long division back in the day, like pre-calculators, like long division? So yes, it's important to get to the right answer, but that's not what your teacher's looking for, right? Like your teacher's looking for the process, right? So and some it's because some clients are easy, right? Dividing 1,000 by 100, low hanging fruit, right? We can all work that one out. But when you're dividing 8,006 by 224, you better have some process about
Right.
yourself, right? So that's what we're talking about here. And so the things I'm going to be discussing are all very simple. But it's like Stephen was saying earlier with the layering. Like if you miss these layers, this is the difference between having very, very, very high persistency and very low. Right. So we'll just jump in from there. So the first thing in the presentation phase, like, because remember, we've already had the full conversation. We know what's going on with their situation. We got their story. We know who they're trying to protect, who they love. We got all their health information. We've even generated the quote. Right. We've done all that. So now we're just talking about it. So this applies whether you're in the home or whether you're on the phone. Get them to write it down, especially if you're on the phone. Stop, have them grab a sheet of paper and a pen and wait until they get that so they can write down these numbers that you're talking about. If you're in the
Right.
home,
So
oh, no,
let me give you a
jump in.
quick thing on that.
Yeah.
The reason to have them write it down is to get them to do stuff.
Mm,
When you create a cadence of compliance, you end up with compliance.
mm.
right? It's the same principle behind public school and why it's designed the way it is. It was designed not to create entrepreneurs, but to create factory workers. Look it up. It's
Yeah.
history.
Yep.
It's basic history. That's why all the bells, that's why all the compliance. It's how we work as human beings. Once we get in a cadence of compliance, we stay in that cadence of compliance. So getting them to do things, whether it's getting them to, if you're in home, get them to get you a glass of water, even if you're not going to drink it. In fact, don't drink it. We don't need any crazy stuff going on, but it's getting them to go to the kitchen table. It's the same thing when you're doing virtual. Get them to write it down. It's a cadence of compliance. If you don't create a cadence of compliance, don't be upset when you get to the end and there's not compliance. Go ahead.
Nope, love it. Yeah, that's the main point, right? The secondary point on top of that, especially if you're virtual, is we've just had a very heavy conversation, right? We talked about who died. It's been a lot of things going on in the last half hour, right? So whenever you're about to run these numbers off to them, like they need to process this. They need to look at it. They need to understand what's going on. And here's where I see people make the biggest mistakes, and I see it a lot actually. You do all the things right, all the conversation, everything is in line. Then we go to talk about the quotes, and all we can do is connect numbers with prices, numbers with prices. And then we wonder why we get to let me think about it, right? It's because it's not concrete. It's just a number. It doesn't mean anything. I don't understand it's just how much something costs. So the most important thing right here is to talk about or describe how it's going to solve the problem, then tell them what it costs, because that's what they're purchasing. Right? They're not purchasing 25K for a funeral. They're purchasing the funeral is fully paid off, traditional, just like they want it, and there's leftover money for the grandkids. That's what they're purchasing. So
Yeah.
if you don't describe it to them like that, then we're not making that connection.
They buy a feeling, they don't buy a policy.
Mm.
Be crystal clear. They buy a feeling, they don't buy some paperwork.
Yeah.
They're buying a feeling. And that's what he's talking about right there.
Yeah. And it just makes all the sense in the world. Like because when I hear it done properly, it's like, yes, right? Like, yes, they understand what they're purchasing. And there's a couple of reasons for it. One is to make that connection, but it's also to kind of mitigate some things that you may not, or they may not like. Maybe they can't afford budget wise to buy the solution they really want. That's
Yeah.
okay. But as long as we describe it in a way that makes it make sense for them, we can get around that stuff.
Yeah. And here's what I'll tell you, listen to how they process it. If what they talked about was, I want to make sure that the funeral is taken care of and that my grandkids, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If you did that well, then
Yeah.
here now, as they work out the budget, the only thing in their mind is, what can I afford to do? Listen to what they say. When they start saying things like, well, I mean, obviously I'd love to do the 30,000, but I mean, we could probably still get a funeral accomplished. I mean, we could probably still get the funeral taken care of with the 20,000. Um, I'd love to do the 30 because I just know that would take care of the funeral no matter what. But I think the 20, when they're processing, talking about the word pictures from before, that means you did that well. If they're not,
Yeah.
you're probably not going to make the sale, because now it's just, now we're talking facts, not feelings.
Right.
Right.
And you got to paint that picture for them. You got to paint that picture for them. So even if you get down to the point where it's like not quite what they want, or just more than they were thinking it was going to be, even if it's bottom of the barrel, this is rare. This is a very rare client, but a bottom of the barrel, all they can afford is $5,000 for $40, right? That's a very rare person that we're talking about here. But I always tell them, like, your family, when your time comes, will be eternally grateful that you gave them a $5,000 head start.
All right. Time out. Say that one more time.
Mm. So again, rare client, but even if you're talking to someone that can only afford to get a $5,000 policy for $40 a month, and they don't like the way that feels, right? Because that's not what they wanted. They feel insecure, they feel upset, they're gonna take it out on you. So I always lead with, when your time comes, your family will be eternally grateful that you gave them a $5,000 head start.
There it is. There it is. Right. Um, so what he's doing is connecting the feeling with that line.
Mm.
Does that make sense? If you don't do it like that, guess what happens? They're going to cancel that $40 a month, because they're going to go see the first draft come out, maybe see the first draft come out and be like, man, I 5,000. and then it's going to cancel.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yep.
telling you, that's what happens on the other side.
Hmm.
That's what happens on the other side. Now, here's what I'll tell you. We go back a few episodes. If you do that part right, you will not end up in the bargain basement here.
Yeah.
If
Absolutely.
if it's just a matter of purchasing a policy, they're going to want to do it at the lowest price point possible,
Hmm.
right? Think if they're still thinking about it as a policy, then all they're going to be worried about here is price point.
Yeah.
If it's a feeling, then all they're worried about here is what's feasible. Does that make sense? So if they're hammering you on price point, it's because they think they're buying a policy. But if they're up here elevated and buying a feeling, all they're trying to get to is what is actually feasible for me and my budget. So you will have higher average premiums as long as you do the rest of that correct. Which is why I go back and listen to the other episodes. All right, go ahead.
No, you'll need to. You'll need to because it's, again, we said at the top of the call that all these things equal, this is how we get here, right? So if you're missing any of those pieces, all this stuff falls flat, right? So you got to have the story and then solving the problem so you can properly do this part as well. And then last but not least, again, these are just 3 quick bullet points on the presentation phase. It's pretty simple, but if you don't do it right, we're gonna be missing some things. So the last one is just a basic closing question. Which one of these 3 options seems like it makes the most sense for what you're trying to get done? And then that's the important part.
Yep.
Clam
Now,
up.
this is where people shoot themselves in the foot.
Yeah.
Like I want you to picture this. If I open my mouth next, I'm gonna shoot myself in the foot. Like picture that. Like if you open your mouth, like you just shot yourself in the foot. And here's why. There's a lot that's happened, right? They've worked through a thing that no one's worked them through because most insurance salespeople are idiots and they're the quote masters, right? You be like, got a quote, got a quote, got a quote, quote. Captain quote here, ready to quote, sir. That's how most people say. They don't do it the correct way. So they're processing feelings that they haven't processed yet. Even if they were in the back of their mind, like I know at some point I will die, and what led them to the lead is back of the brain stuff. Now it's front of the mind. They need time to process it. And here's the other thing: when you speak next, you are taking away your number one lever. Your number one lever is silence. Silence gives you leverage. Silence gives you leverage. Noise takes away all your leverage. So just sit in it as long as possible. Sit in it as long as possible.
And I got a quick question for you, Stephen, on the back end of that, because this is something I hear a lot. Whenever you're talking to a client that has, let's say they have to have a graded policy or a guaranteed issue, and they have to have some kind of waiting period. I hear people struggle a lot with that, trying to explain it concisely without doing the motor mouth thing. So when you do have a client where this is the case, there's nothing else we can do. It's got to be some kind of waiting period. How do you approach that? How do you explain that to them? We just ran off the quotes. How do we explain that last part, but still make it seem like this is the best thing to do still?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. So I'm a big bad news, good news guy, right? Hey, all right. So we got some bad news. We got some good news. I'm gonna start with the bad news because that's the way my grandfather trained me, right? And if you're in your 50s, say that's the way my father trained me. Think about the generation you're talking to, which is true both for my grandfather and my father. Now, if your grandfather if no one in your life has ever told you start with the bad news first, then let me be the first to tell you start with the bad news first. That way you can go, I've always been told. So start with the bad news first. So I'm going to start with the bad news first because that's what my grandfather taught me. Here's the bad news. The bad news is we waited too long to start this process. With the current health problems you have, we're not going to be able to get what's known as a standard policy. But here's the good news. The good news is we can start the process. We're just going to have a couple year waiting period on the front of it. This is the absolute best situation for you. So here's the way it's going to work. We're going to go ahead and pick out which level of coverage makes the most sense for you budget wise. And then we're going to immediately start the clock. And why I say start the clock is because we've got 24 months until this becomes full coverage. But now the good news is on month 25, you got yourself a fully guaranteed whole life policy for guaranteed. In the meantime, what you're doing is getting a head start. So every premium you pay in, they're going to keep track of. And God forbid we lose you before that 25th month hits. They're going to refund all those premiums plus 10% interest. Do you know a bank on planet Earth that is currently paying 10% on interest? Me neither. Me neither. So this is absolutely the best situation for you. It's not ideal, but it's too late for that. What we can do is get you started on the road to having full coverage. So in other words, like be frank with people. Don't pussyfoot around about it. When you pussyfoot around about things, you create doubt.
Yeah.
You create cognitive dissonance, right? Because people are trained to look for the downside or what's the catch, right? Especially God love some of these senior citizens watching news all day. Investigative reports have shown, like everything's a conspiracy. Everything's a gotcha. We gotcha. We get them. So they're trained to think, what's the loophole? They're trained to think that. So come right at it. Come right at it. And what you'll have is a more confident purchase. Does that make sense, Omar?
Yes, I appreciate that. Yeah, because
I like to attack the bank angle because that you will. Otherwise, you'll hear, "Well, I'll just put money in the bank." Now, here's God's honest truth: they're not going to put a dime in the bank. They would have done it already. So you need to be a financial professional. Take charge of the situation. Tell them exactly like it is, and say, "But we're going to get that clock started for you today."
Mm-hmm. Like that. That's what I was looking for, because I've said that specifically in the Ask Omar's, shameless plug, a lot.
Hey, if you're not taking advantage of the Ask Omar's, take advantage, man. It's layered learning. Now here's what I'll tell you. Unless your name is high up on the leaderboards, then the input needs to be low, right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, I'm helping you out there, because some people be like you sold one policy for $1,000, bro. like what you're not the teacher. No.
Yeah, you haven't earned opinions yet.
But hey, Beamy Ramiro jumps on there after just dropping $9,000 in.
Yep,
there's some stuff.
Come on in.
But hey, take advantage of this. Send your agents to it. It will take so much lifting off of you, especially if you're building an agency. When you're building an agency, don't be a control freak, because here's the good news about being a control freak: you control how big your business gets. If you want your business to grow out of control, then you got to let go. Yeah. So utilize it or not. But I'm just telling you, Omar, the stuff he's teaching on there, the questions he'll ask, it's exactly what I would say. So Omar's done an incredible job of encapsulating the 26 years of experience I've got producing at a high level into these classes we teach. So take advantage of it. It's there for you.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Stephen. And for you guys that are on there, like he didn't know I was going to ask him that question. I asked him that question because I knew how he was going to answer the question. All right, so don't take my word for it. It's not just Omar's words, right? Like,
I'm the one that springs stuff on people. Don't be springing stuff on me.
So if that answer sounded familiar, there's a reason why it sounded familiar. So do it next time. All right. How are we doing on time? We still got some time for post sale a little bit.
Yeah. No, this is vital. This is vital.
Yeah, because this is a big thing. So we're transitioning to the post-sale checklist, guys, and we have this as a resource. So hit me up. We can make sure you guys have that. So again, this is important no matter what, no matter if you're in the home or if you're virtual. But today, I don't care where you get your leads from. Your clients outside of one market, and maybe even including them too. You are not the only person who's talking to them about buying life insurance. I promise.
Also, let me just give you a quick thing there.
Mm-hmm.
When you're selling warm market, these people.
Yeah.
If it's your cousin that keeps getting his cell phone shut off, don't put him on the list.
Don't do that.
He's going to buy a policy because he buys everything, but he ain't going to keep it. Does that make sense? Like, think it through. It's just funny. Sometimes when people write a bunch of warm market business and 80% falls off the books, I was like, they wrote all their cousins that can't keep a cell phone on. God love them. You can't keep a cell phone on. That's not your client. So, all right, let's go back to that.
Change
what we're going to do now won't fix,
Yep.
cousin Bobby that can't pay his cell phone bill. That what we're going to do now won't fix that. We can't fix that. We don't. If we had that kind of magic power, we wouldn't have to sell insurance.
It's true. It's a fact.
Yeah, that's what I told Holly one time when she said, "You should know what I'm thinking." I said, "Man, well, Holly, listen, if I could read your mind, if I could read minds, I would not have an insurance license. I'll tell you that much. It's too much continuing education." She didn't think it was as funny as I thought it was in the moment, but
Yeah, I don't think that
laugh
went well.
about it over time. But yeah, if you can't change people that are financially responsible, so you know
Yeah.
them, right? With leads, you don't know who's financially responsible. You kind of get a clue. But when you're going to sell warm market, pick the best people in the warm market.
Yeah.
Pick the absolute best people. Pick the business owners you know. Pick your friends and family that have good jobs, that have accomplished something in life. So I just want to put that plug on there because it's funny. Sometimes I'll see a bunch of policies fall off the books. I'm like, was that leads? And then you find out it was warm market. It's like, they took all the easy people in warm market.
Yep.
Pick a hard person in warm market. Just like recruiting. If you're going to get a no, get a good no. Get a no worth getting. Right. So, all right, back into it. I'm eating up time. Let's go.
No, that's good. That's good. Yeah. So the point here at the post sale is to maintain the trust, right? Because in this situation, you've already sold the policy. So again, these people that if you're working leads, especially, you're not the only person that's talking to them about life insurance. They probably filled out 17 things on Meta and they got 76 people calling them. So you're probably not gonna be the last person to talk to them today about life insurance. So in the
By the
first
way, can I guess slide one more thing in there? You just start talking about Meta. You got me thinking. Is it because sometimes people? I thought this was an exclusive lead. It is. That one entrance on Meta is.
Yes.
We can't control what else they did on Meta. Again, if we could control what people did on Meta, we wouldn't need an insurance license.
We would not.
Which is the other reason when you get a lead, attack that thing, man. Attack it. Because you're gonna do a better job for them than any of these other jokers that they're gonna call them. You're gonna do the absolute best job for them. So attack it with that, right? In other words, know that if they talk to one of these other jokers, they're not gonna be taken care of like not like we're gonna do, and especially not like we're getting ready to show you, which is the post sale. Go ahead, Omar.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So the maintaining that trust, well, I guess the only way to really maintain trust and build trust is say you're gonna do something and then do it. Right? Like it's that simple. So the first step in the post sale checklist is again, virtual or otherwise. I always make sure the client has the consumer, not the agent facing, but the consumer brochure of the product that they purchased. Are they going to look at it? Absolutely not. Maybe like 6% of the time they'll open that email. But I'm trying to communicate to them without having to say it. I do what I say I'm going to do. So I'm going to hang up this phone. I'm immediately going to queue up that email, attach it to it, and send them right to them.
Let me just jump in here real quick. Let's be crystal clear. This is post sale. Yes. In other words, the sale is done. For most final expense policies, it's already been approved, right? This is post sale. And I'm telling you this for a specific reason. It is a federal crime for you to send a product brochure pre-sale.
Yeah, don't do that ever.
Yeah. Is it a federal crime, really, Stephen? No, it's not, but act like it is.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to be a brochure guy, if you want to send out a bunch of brochures ahead of time before you make your sale, you and Quote Man should team up. He'll get them the quote, you get them the brochure, you divide and conquer, you split the workload that way. That way nobody has to work too hard. What we're talking about is post sale. I just want to be crystal clear on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's because like it's again virtual or otherwise. If you're in the home, it's a little different. You know, like there's a handshake, there's a hug, there's something, there's some kind of finality to what's happened, right? Kind of putting some punctuation on the emotion there. Over the phone, you can still have that, but it's really, really, really important because they committed to the $125 a month or whatever they're spending, and the only thing they've got to show for it is, I don't know, like a text signature or a DocuSign in their inbox that they're also not going to look at. Yeah. So it can kind of feel odd sometimes. We're used to having some kind of proof of purchase whenever we buy things, right?
And one thing I like to do too, if it's a carrier that generates a policy number, give them that policy number. It's very important that you write this policy number down. And I'll just do a plug for Transamerica. I love their policy promise that you can download because it's specific to them. And you'll see it on the left-hand side of the screen, the policy promise. You can download it as a PDF. You can send right to the client. I love that. I wish all the carriers would do that. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah.
So just subtle plug there for Transamerica.
Real quick, we do have a question that just came in. For me to read that off?
Yeah, fire
Okay,
away.
okay, okay. Let's do this real quick. Okay, what's a great way to approach a family that seems skeptical about life insurance? I guess what I'm asking is how to get through to those family members that use the fact that we're family against me. This sounds like a warm market question. How do you deal with skeptical warm market folks?
Gotcha. So I deal with skeptical folks the way I deal with a lot of folks. I'm only going to take so much skepticism before I just move on,
Mm,
right? Like just know this: super skeptical folks, they die without life insurance.
yeah.
I mean, that just is what it is. They're just don't do this. But um, I have told people before, okay, well, here's what I'm going to tell you. I'm going to do you a favor. Get you a good picture and make sure your family knows which picture to use. I'm talking about for the future GoFundMe that will be set up. Good pictures get more money. I'm just telling you, good pictures get more money. If it's like a weird fuzzy picture, it doesn't hit the heartstrings the same, right? Like a good quality picture, because you're going to need that because you're going to die without life insurance. Now again, don't say that to people for compliance sake, but that's how I genuinely feel inside. Like I'm only going to take so much skepticism. It's just like recruiting, right? People say, I need to talk to this recruit of mine because they're skeptical about these 10 things about this business, this company, this whatever. And I'm like, I, I'm, I'm looking for people that aren't super skeptical, right? Because it's kind of like if you go on the first date and they're difficult to deal with, it's not going to get better,
Mm,
right? If you go on the first date and they treat the waiter or waitress poorly, hey, guess how they're going to treat you in the future? That's who they are. Does that make sense? So
yeah.
don't try and change skeptical people. Like, give it a shot. But if that's how they feel, to heck with them. I'm gonna find somebody else. I'm gonna find somebody that's got some sense. Because if I could change a skeptic's mind completely, that's determined to be skeptical, I wouldn't need an insurance license.
Yeah.
I'm looking for the open, not the closed. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah. Absolutely. And okay, we're gonna try to speed it up. But this question that just came in is tied directly to what the next step is. So, question came in and says, when should I get referrals? How do I go about getting those referrals? And how do I plant the seeds post sale? So, and correct me on this, Stephen, but you really should be getting your referrals at the end of the first call, right? When the sale is closed. Like that's the best time, emotions are the highest. That's when
Yeah.
you should be getting it at the very least. You should be planting the seed, but you should be trying to execute on that then. So let's say we don't, or let's say we plant the seeds. So 24 hours. So this is the next day. Again, if it's final expense, it's usually approved that same day or the next day. So this is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to send them the brochure. I did that the same day. So the next day, I'm going to call the carrier. Why am I going to call the carrier? I want to see if it's been approved, right? Usually we get some kind of communication about that, but I'm going to call them anyway. I'm going to see when it's going to be approved, number one. I also want to make sure that they are going to send a physical copy of the policy to the client. It is 2026, and some carriers don't do that anymore by default. A lot of them, unless you opt into it in the e-app or if you call them later, like they'll
Yeah.
just send them a digital version of the policy. So I want to make sure that they get a physical policy sent out there.
And that's one thing I'll tell them in the appointment, Omar, is I'll say, now I'm going to make sure that you are going to get a paper copy of the policy. And
Hmm.
I'll tell them, because it's always me and them versus the insurance companies. I'll tell them, because here's the deal. These insurance companies, they're big on digital policies. And I get it. It lowers their costs and all that. But call me old fashioned. I just love having paper in people's homes. And if it's final expense sale, they love that because
Yeah.
they want paper, which is, by the way, yeah, it's the same reason we send that product brochure so that they have something in the meantime. So they have something real. But yeah, I love that. Um,
Yeah. So,
hey, I'll tell you what, let's do a whole call on referrals. I know
yeah.
next week we're going to do a call on the 3 foot rule, which has a lot
Mhm.
of people's skills that will get you good um, at referrals. But let's dive deeper into the referrals on another
Okay.
call. So we do it justice, because what I really want to get to is the solidify part, because that is so vital.
Yeah. Yeah, well, the solidify, I mean, that should be happening at the end of the first sale too, right? At the end of the call. But 24 hours, we are making contact with the client because we've already talked to carrier. So we know if the policy's been approved or if it's still pending. Either way, we're going to confirm they're going to send out a physical copy, and we're going to get on the phone with the client then that day, right? So we can communicate what's going on. If it's been approved, excellent. We get to have a good news. If it's still pending, that's fine. We're going to talk about the policy being sent out and when they should expect that. But also, we're going to see if they have questions about the brochure that we sent them, right, yesterday. And that's key because we said we were going to do it and we did, right? They never looked at it. They rarely do. But when they go to look at it, because I'm going to bring it up, they're going to see that it's there, right? So that is your opportunity to, if Steven wants to jump in there, talk about revisit the solidify, plant the seeds for referrals, because that's the next step in the process of making sure that policy is being approved.
Yeah. So the solidify is immediately
Yeah.
before you submit
Yeah.
before you submit the policy, right? And if you don't know what the solidify step is, in Agent Academy, we cover it in depth. If you go watch my sales mastery, I cover it in depth. That's where you're getting them to commit that they're not going to cancel this policy. High performers do it, low performers don't. High performers rarely have a policy cancel. Low performers have cancels. They have chargebacks every month. I'm telling you, it's crazy. I can show you the difference in reports. I'm like, see, no chargebacks. The last 3 months, no chargebacks. So solidify. Then you're going to build on that with a follow up. Why do you do a follow up? The post sale communication is what keeps policies on the books. People don't like it when they get sold something. When you submit the policy, get the commission, and bye bye birdie, never talk to you again, they feel like they got sold. When you do a brief follow-up 24 hours afterwards, they feel like they've been served. Yeah. Right? You spent the whole appointment promising to serve them. Then you get the money, and if you stop, you change the feel. Right? Now the feel's changed. It went from warm and fuzzy to I got sold. If you do these basic post-sale communications, they'll feel like they've been served and they're being served. So you'll get more referrals. People love having their guy. When you do this back-end stuff well, you become their guy. You become their girl. You become their lady. You become their man. You become their person when you do this post-sale communication well. What's the only reason to not do post-sale communication? Only if you are a scaredy cat. Now, if you can bring me a doctor's note, and it has to be a real doctor, it's got to be a real doctor, just real doctor. Bring me a doctor's note that says you've been diagnosed as a scaredy cat, and then you don't have to do any of the post-sale stuff. You don't have to do a lick of it as long as you've been diagnosed, right? It has to be an actual diagnosis from a medical doctor that you are in fact a scaredy cat. Then you don't have to do any of this stuff. But if you want to be a high performer, do all the post-sale stuff. It makes a difference.
Yeah. Absolutely. Let's see. Okay, let's put a bow on this. So the first 48 hours, most important part, right? The initial sale, the solidify, and getting the policy approved, making sure that we're getting everything in line. Then the next touch point outside of that week is going to be when they receive the policy, right? So you should know when that's going to be because you called the carrier already. So even if they haven't gotten it yet, I'm going to call around that timeline and tell them, communicate this to them, right? So this is phone conversations you're having with this client multiple times throughout this process, right? So they're expecting your call.
And guys, these are not 20-minute phone calls.
Right.
These are quick, sneak in a 5-minute phone call, a 3-minute phone call in between appointments. This is not, I got to take 20 minutes out of my day to do this because I can hear it. I can hear it out there. It's like, oh God, I got to add all this and I'm supposed to sell more policies and I'm supposed to build a team. But we're not talking, it's subtle touch points.
Yep.
Subtle touch points make all the difference and will keep that policy solid from here on out. And then a family's truly been served.
That's it.
Not just another policy slung. We got plenty of policy slingers out there in this industry. They're not going to be there when the family when they're not going to be there when the policyholder actually passes away because they've already been bounced on to 13 other things. We don't need any more policy slingers in this in this industry. I don't want policy slingers on our team. I want people that serve. I want that servant, like serve the people because they're committing. And you think about some of these people. This is why these post sales, and maybe we'll end on this, Omar. All this post sale stuff is so important to not only help them appreciate what they did, but to keep it on the books. Because if they don't keep it on the books, then they're in a worse situation than they were before. You do just these little post sale things. They make a big difference, and it keeps the policy on the book. It helps keep that promise when that time comes. Omar, did I miss anything from? I know we kind of ran a little over here.
Yeah, nope, nope. All the important stuff is there. The next thing after that is just, every 30 days, quick text check-in, 6 months, and then of course doing actual policy review. So that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, and annual policy reviews are there. That's a gold mine for getting referrals,
Mhm.
because you do an annual policy review, you are now different than anybody else that has ever approached them.
Yeah.
Annual policy reviews, you'll find annuities. Annual policy reviews, you'll find, hey, I need you to call my grandson. He just got married. He needs some life insurance. That's where all that stuff comes.
Yeah.
If you wonder how top performers that have been here for a while just seemingly effortlessly continue to write business, it's that.
Yeah.
It's post sale service that makes all the difference in the world. So
That's it.
awesome, Omar. Thank you so much, man. I love all your thought you put into things. I love how much you just want to serve the team and help the team. How readily you're there. You're a tremendous resource. Have been a tremendous resource. Super grateful to have you. Not just on the team but in our life, man. Appreciate you. These five. We should have done this. We should have done this 5 years ago. This was fun doing these 5 series of calls. Guys, go back and rewatch. Go back and rewatch. Holly and I love you. We want you to win more than you can possibly understand. We have our big event coming up into April in Burlington, North Carolina. Stage to Success. Get your tickets today. It's going to be epic. All right, let's get out. Let's get after it.